Hello and welcome to Business Today. I'm Siddharth Zarabi, and with me now Dr. V. Anantha Nageswaran, the Chief Economic Advisor, having presented the economic survey for 2024-25 in Parliament. Welcome, Dr. Nageswaran. The big message that is resonating across all debates after the survey was made public is the point on regulation. And Dr. Nageswaran, this echoes what is being discussed in the rest of the world, particularly in the context of Europe and even in America. What is the thought process beyond bringing this to public debate, and what areas can we expect work to happen as far as lesser regulation in India is concerned, sir?
First of all, thank you, Siddharth. And we flagged it already in the survey that we brought out in July 2024. So this survey takes it to the next level by exploring specific dimensions in different chapters in different sectors. So we are not following the global template or global debate. We are simply talking about what is necessary for India, which is something which we have flagged even earlier as well. That is number one. Number two, which specific actions that will follow as a result of this is, of course, is up to not just the union government, but it is, again, the survey makes it very clear much of the action has to be in the domain of state governments as well. But nonetheless, I think the actions that need to follow rest with the government agencies across the country. It will be difficult for me to speculate on how these actions will happen and who will take the lead, because some states are already doing that. The union government had done a lot in the last 10 years on ease of doing business. They came up with Jan Vishwas 1.0. There is a lot of talk about the next Jan Vishwas scheme as well. So it is an ongoing exercise in many states. Some states are more advanced than others. So, but the survey wants to spur some action in areas where there is potential for economic activity to respond more than in some other areas. So we also want to catalyze the discussion in that direction. Back to you.
Dr. Nageswaran, there's also a very significant mention about 8% growth rate that is required for Viksit Bharat. I wonder, with whatever the states and centre may choose to do with regard to deregulation, is there any correlation that can be drawn between deregulation and the prospects for a faster and speedier economic growth?
Sure. Look, I mean, some of it is intuitive, and empirical studies across the world are not there, particularly speaking. However, in the case of India, and we present that in Chapter 7 on the topic of industries, that those states which were very active in the Business Reform Action Plan initiative of the Union Government, BRAP, those states which were very advanced in BRAP actually saw their industrial activity do much better than those states which lagged behind in Business Reform Action Plans. So that to you is a very clear indicator that it works. It works to boost industrial activity in the states.
Dr. Nageswaran, the survey does a recap of the Indian economy and also points us towards what's happening globally and some of the areas of concern that emerge. Would it be fair to say that while the survey says India is on a steady track, it's the external environment which we perhaps need to respond to far more effectively for future growth?
No, I mean, look, we can't really be controlling what happens in the external environment, and to some extent, we take the external environment as given. Yes, policy, foreign policy, diplomacy, security policies, etc., can shape it to some extent. But as far as macroeconomics is concerned, in the survey, we have taken the external environment as given, and therefore we make the case that we need to double down on domestic growth drivers.
Dr. Nageswaran, what is the likely impact of friendshoring and global trade restrictions led by the United States specifically that a developing economy like India may have to face?
I don't want to comment on a specific country's action, and that will be speculative. We have in the survey pointed out that in general, without referring to any country, in general, it is a global phenomena that trade restrictions have increased, proliferated in the last several years, much more than they used to in the prior years before that. And the same thing goes for trade-related and investment-related restrictions, and it is global. And therefore, we are saying that external growth and external investments both have to be taken as going to be as something that are going to be in smaller magnitude than in the past, and therefore there is a need to boost domestic savings, domestic income generation, and as well as domestic production. And the answer to that is, one of the answer to that is deregulation, because that will boost the investment efficiency, and that will also lead to employment generation. So in both ways, the deregulation aspect takes care of the external environment having become tighter, both with respect to investment and trade.
Dr. Nageshwaran, in terms of the outlook for inflation, I wonder whether the external inputs will be a more critical factor than what could happen domestically, especially on account of weather vagaries.
No, I think so far in the last 2-3 years, we have not seen that the external environment. Initially, when the conflict in Ukraine broke out, there was a spike in the oil price, which came down reasonably quickly, and since then, it has not been a big factor. And now there is a lot of conversation around the world about ramping up production of fossil fuels. So, whether the external environment is going to affect the inflation developments in the domestic economy, I would say at this point the chances are relatively remote. But yes, climate change can have impact on food production, and also can make it more volatile, etc. But that is again something which the government has responded to in the budget in July 2024 by releasing so many climate resistant seed varieties, etc., investing in food chain storages, facilities and capacity creation, etc. And more importantly, I think the inflation developments can also be addressed by raising productivity levels in the industrial sector, and which is what again the deregulation aspect and boosting investment efficiency will take care.
One final question, Dr. Nageshwaran, and this is this very interesting chapter on AI, and there's been a little bit of concern around recent developments that India seems to be slipping behind. The government has made an announcement just one day ago. Your own assessment in terms of the challenge and opportunity that AI provides for our economy?
Look, it is at this moment, it is still a lot of exciting developments happening on the technology front, but its impact in real terms on productivity, output in different sectors and on employment are still in very early stage. So it is difficult to get very precise, more precise than what we have done in this chapter. The important thing is to make sure that the development that happens on the technology front, because we have to be competitive, we have to be keeping up with technological developments that are happening in other nations. At the same time, we also have a much larger population than many other countries, and a much higher need to generate 8 million jobs a year on average. And therefore, we have additional challenges that many other smaller countries do not face. And that is the consciousness and that is the realization that we wanted to bring about in this chapter.
Many thanks for your time with us today, Dr. Nageshwaran. That was the Chief Economic Advisor speaking with us briefly on some of the key highlights of the economic survey. We'll be back with more. Until then, goodbye.